Okay, it's time to do the headliner on the Cummins. So, let's get started here. First things first, let's get this rubber removed, the rubber gasket from the door. Just slide it off, it should come pretty easy. I don't think there should be any glue in there or anything like that. Let's see here. Then you'll get a Phillips on this visor, number 2 Phillips. There's 3 screws holding in the pivot point, and then there's 1 screw holding down this guy. Then from there, the oh shit handle has these little, they're just little rubber inserts. Pull them out, and then you'll have a Torx head in there. What size was that? Let's see here. T25. So use a T25 to remove the oh shit handle. Just pull those 2 plugs and then remove the 2. And from there you'll just have 2 spring clips. So just pull it directly out, or like in my case, I came over here and got a bar behind it to kind of help guide the clip out. I hate replacing those damn clips. Center console is kind of tricky. You have these 2 tabs in here. You have to push them down at the same exact time and kind of wiggle the whole thing down. Once you get it down, you can pull it forward off of these clips towards your visor here, or your rear view. Oh wait, nope, it's backwards. I apologize. So pull it backwards and it'll slide off. I'm using mine to hold everything in place right now, so I don't actually want to pull mine off. I'm just doing half of this for the video. This guy, the trim for the door latch, is the same thing, a T25. There's just 2 of them that come directly down, and then you'll have to pull this guy directly out away from the vehicle. In order to remove the seat belt, you need to push this head down on this plastic and then pull the bottom out. It's very important that you push down or you'll break those clips. And then under there is another Torx head. What size is this? T50. So after you get that cover off, just use your T50 to remove it. Once you do that, it'll just pull straight out. Same thing, 2 clips. Be kind of cautious with them. And I just leave it sitting there to kind of help me, because when you need something to help you hold it up, this thing's just cardboard. It's flimsy, it's flopsy. You don't want to do any damage to it. So make sure you leave a couple things around that you can kind of just instantly remove when you're ready. And see, here's why this is being done, of course. But let's see here. The light in the center, you'll just literally pry the clear lens from the driver's side of the vehicle toward the passenger. Okay, now once you do that, it relieves the clip, and you can kind of jiggle it and work it. Now see what I have? Now I can just pull it this way and unplug it. Aside of that, all you have here is these 2 clips. I did notice they were different. The one with the spacing on it is for the center here. There's kind of a lower portion of the headliner and towards the center. That's where the spaced one goes. And then this one without spacer goes just over the back glass. This guy's kind of tricky, but it's 2 pieces is the biggest thing to remember. It's plastic and it's 2 pieces. You need to pry on the bottom one, of course, and get them to separate. The second they separate, now it's weird. It's like a wedge system. This thing's being oh. Yeah, so they come off very easily once you separate the 2 units. Show you the design so you understand. Just like that. Okay, so here's where we want to be, something like this. Kind of looks fiberglassy. This is what you'll find. Oh, sorry. Let me start out proper here. First and foremost, put yourself a trash can on the ground. Something to that effect to keep it off the ground, something to support it. It's pretty flimsy, but you'll just support it as you go around. Here's the old fabric that was on the top. And so all I'm doing is cruising around with this wire brush. And it's not easy, I mean, it takes a while. And I've probably been at this for half hour, 40 minutes, somewhere in there. Just be cautious, you know, you don't want to destroy this stuff, but if you do bend it, you'll probably be alright. Get it completely cleaned down, like this, grind it up, and keep going over it, you know, like, take notice there's a bunch of little fuzzies sitting on the surface here. I don't know if I can get it with my camera, but you want this stuff as clean as possible. A lot of these glues and stuff don't work together, so even after you get all this off of here and it looks really good like that, make sure you go over it again and break loose absolutely everything. That way the glue will have no problem adhering to this fiberglass type cardboard. Yeah, so get it completely cleaned, hit it with some air, make sure there's no fuzzies left. So I just got done cleaning this guy up with a microfiber. I put my fabric in the dryer. I moistened it up. I just sprayed it with some water out of a spray bottle, just to kind of give it some moisture so it would get all the wrinkles out of it. So anyway, it's been in the dryer for a bit. All the wrinkles are out of it. It looks great. I flipped it over. I cleaned this mating surface right here, plus I cleaned the other side because I don't want, it was very dirty on the other side. So if yours is really dirty on the other side, you better clean it up just to make sure that you're not, you know, you have to really play with this stuff to work it into place as you're gluing it. So you will get your hands dirty if the backside is dirty, and if your fabric is going to leave a fingerprint all over it, just be cautious of that. So I'm getting ready to glue it. So I've laid it out, I've trimmed it up just the way I want it. It's a little bit tighter than I would normally do it, but that's this particular fabric I had to have and wanted to use. So I've got it laid out all cozy the way I want it. Everything's perfect. The alignment on this guy is not too critical, but so I'm gonna start spraying it. And when you spray it, you want to spray it really close, really fast. Just keep your hand moving. The closer the better. If you're too far back, it tends to want to dry before it hits, and so it glues totally different. It doesn't stick as well, I would say. So you always want to do this in two parts. That's why we fold it right down the middle. This is just the best point for this particular club cab headliner. So I'm gonna get everything ready, start gluing. Alright, so go through over here, guys, and get everything ready so that you can't spray things you don't intend to spray. You only want to spray the part that you're going to fold over right now. So don't worry about the edges. We'll be able to do that on this third phase. So here we go. Move your hand really fast. Try to stay about 6 inches if you can. And it's going to take you a while to go through it and cover everything. Just try to keep moving the whole way. We're going to spray this guy, and then we're going to spray over here, and then we're going to give them 5 to 10 minutes to dry. So we got it all sprayed out now. Just kind of close up of what the glue looks like. This is why you want your fold to be perfect. It's a good time to point out, by the way, if you're using a fabric that you have to keep aligned, then you usually want to measure from end to end, find your center point, mark it in the center of the headliner unit and the fabric itself on the front and the back, both sides, so that you can keep that alignment true. And what you'll do is you'll start there when you lay it down. So this is fresh, I just sprayed it. It's about 100 degrees outside, and I'm using a swamp cooler which adds humidity, and for some reason that really speeds things up. I'm going to give this about 5 minutes and then we'll start working it into place. But it has to be dry enough. When you touch your finger to it, it should not stay on your finger. Your finger should be clean. It should just be tacky. This is a GMC headliner I just did, and it's a very elastic type. It's really thin, and honestly I find these thin ones to be the easiest. This one I'm putting on the Cummins is incredibly thick. I've never used one so thick, so hopefully it goes well. We'll see what happens. I don't see why it wouldn't go well, but usually the thinner ones are a bit easier. Just you don't want to be able to see through it because obviously the glue will have issues. But this is why we wait for the glue to dry. If you don't wait for the glue to dry, it'll bleed right through this stuff, no problem. So you have to wait for it to dry before you touch it. Okay, so I got everything sprayed. It's been about 8 minutes. I can touch it with my finger, nothing is sticking. So go to your heavier spots, make sure they're not wet. It looks like we're good to go. So I'm just very cautiously going to lay it down and try and immediately work on the center. Don't push it in hard, just kind of gently push it into place. For now we're just laying everything into the position we want it. We'll work out any issues afterwards. Anywhere where it's too tight for you to do what you're doing, just lift it up. Just do not put your hand over a wrinkle and force it into place. So these corners are kind of the area that we want to address right away. Any of these lower valley type areas. We want to pull it out from the center where we sprayed it. If you feel anything that's damp at all, stay away from that area and immediately bounce to somewhere else and give it a few more minutes to dry out. Don't really want to worry about our dimples quite yet, meaning anywhere where like an oh shit handle goes or a hanger or whatever it may be. Just worry about getting any flat surfaces massaged in. Just go through it inch by inch. Make sure if you have something that has to be straight that you're keeping an eye on that and that everything's straight. If you see something you don't like, pull it back up. Better sooner than later, because this stuff just gets worse and worse and worse as you go down the line. So that's why the first thing you want to focus on is just getting it laid out right where you want it. You can work at the fine tuning afterwards. So I'm going to go through this and finish it out, and I'll show you what the finished product looks like. Remember, we're doing half at a time of the surface, and then after that we have to let it dry for 24 hours, and then we're going to flip it over and do the back side, and that has to dry for 24 hours. Okay, I finally got it done. It went down pretty alright. This is what happens when you have thick fabric though. See how if you look at the pattern, it kind of wants to crinkle it. So it's going to draw it down into that divot when you do that. You see, like this area, I ended up working on it too late and it didn't attach, which is why you really want to start in the middle, get that perfect, and that way if anything happens on the outside, don't even worry about it. Just, we're going to work on this thing upside down. That'll be the point at which you'll want to get that guy taken out. So I'll handle that later, not even worry about it. Right now what I do want to do though is I want to go through and start cutting away the excess material. I like to keep it about 1 to 2 inches away, and then you'll want to cut a V away from any pointed parts. So like right here, you want to cut a V. So you'll see my finished product when I'm done here. So it's 24 hours later. It come out pretty damn good. There are a couple little things that I don't really like, and you'll have that as well after your 24-hour period. You know, you don't want to mess with it too much and challenge it. So this is my touch-up procedure to make that come out. So you're going to want to actually, anything that's not touching, you might have to cook the fabric a little bit. And all this stuff has plastic in it. So of course, the hotter you get it, the more pliable it is. Plus we're kind of reactivating the glue here. So as you can see, it's very pliable at this point with the heat. It's very easy to manipulate, and it just wakes that glue right up. You know, and at this point we gotta get it right because it's already glued down, and this is kind of our last shot to get it. So I'm gonna cruise around and finish. There's just a couple little more things that I don't like that I want to get rid of. Any rogue fibers, we'll hit those with a little bit of heat until they melt out. That way we don't have a loose string that's gonna pull apart our headliner. Other than that, this is what you need to do on all your corners. The method to the madness is any exterior corners, you don't want to cut all the way away, but you're trying to set it up to where you can fold everything over and it's all going to make sense. And don't forget that the entire outside parameter of this headliner unit is actually going to be hidden. So you won't see any of this, so just do what you've got to do to get it glued down. But cut all these reliefs out. The V pattern is there to ensure that we don't glue one piece to another. Anytime it's perfectly straight, we don't need to cut any relief. This is a square opening, so you can see why I've cut it in this manner. You only need about 1 inch, maybe 2 inches of overlap. Now's a good time to cut X's in any holes or whatever you feel is adequate. You know, this is a circular hole, so I had to cut a lot of relief to it. And just practice it with your hands. If you don't know if it's gonna work, just fold it over. See how it feels, fold over its neighbor, see how that feels. But on these corners, don't get too close. You need a little extra in case when you put it in there, this thing's gonna get hot and it's gonna wanna stretch and shrink and all that. So I'm gonna get a pillow or something and put it on the trash can so that I can flip this guy upside down when I'm done doing all my little repairs. Yeah, other than that, we should be done with the top as long as you fixed anything about it you don't like and get everything all cut up and ready to flip. Here we are, it's all ready to go. We're flipped over, everything's trimmed up nicely. Try to keep these guys from going overboard. I mean, you can double them up, but you're gonna have to really spray it to get it to stick. You know, just cut relief wherever you want it. After the glue is dry is kind of the wrong time to be cutting anything, so go a little overboard, you know. Make sure all your entrances where everything goes through is cut. These little pins, don't even worry about those. We'll stab them. Very last thing, just to give you like a thumbtack mark so you know where it is. When you push the pin through, you'll just go right through the fabric. That way nothing gets torn more than it needs to. I had a hell of a time. I was working so hard on the inside, and this always happens with my work particularly, where I'm not worried about the outside at all. So you want to go around and kind of tug test it just to make sure that it's actually sticking to where you think it's sticking, because if not, anything on the outside right now is, you know, now's the time to address all that. So I'm gonna go through, get all these guys lined up perfect, so when I spray them, I'm not spraying in ridiculous areas. You know, and you can see if it's a 3-inch leg, spray over on the fiberglass 3 inches. spray shit like this, don't hose it and go overboard, but make sure you get some in there so that when we stick our finger through the other side, we can kind of just spin it and it'll force it to lay down. So really, you just don't want your material to bunch up. You don't want 3 inches of material on the back side making your whole headliner crooked or anything like that, you know. So I'm gonna spray this. I've already tug tested everything, got everything lined up, so I'm gonna spray it. So it feels like we're ready here. So I don't know how much of I could do this on camera, but this is how you do all your different penetrations. It's stringy, but remember, it's not. It won't stick to your skin at this point. It's very tough shit, though. So if you feel anything wet, you need to go alcohol your fingers immediately because it will transfer over. And that's really the biggest point. I don't care about the backside of this thing, but you know, nobody wants to get this on their fresh fabric. And it don't have to be perfect. The insert will go in there and square everything up. So I'm just going to go around and start folding these over, and you want to keep looking under it to make sure that you're not creating any tension points or wrinkles or anything like that. Any of these larger spans, start in the middle and work your way out. So here we got our finished product. I've circled it around it probably 3 times. That's this little guy, of course. Anyway, this is kind of what you get, you know. I mean, you want to really make sure you massage it into place. This is what holds the tension on everything. Just make sure you roll your edges nice and tight, but don't do it so much that it's choking and bending it over or anything like that. Triple check it, get it really nice. Don't forget for a minute that, you know, when this is installed, it's going to be mere inches from your face, so you're going to see everything up really close. So I'm going to flip mine back over and make sure no issues came from it sitting down like that. It looks pretty good. And I'm just going to go through and make sure every single inch is perfect. She'll sit in here for the remainder of the day. I'm going to bring the temperatures in this room up above 100 and let it cure for probably 10 hours at least. If you can't get any heat in here, in your room or whatever, then and it's cold, I don't know what you got going on, but just give it more time. This could take up to 3 days to dry, no problem. I remember doing it in winter here in the state of Nevada. But you know, if you don't have heat around, I would suggest hitting it with a heat gun or something like that. Because, you know, we live in the desert, and I've seen these things fail from, mostly from heat, by the way. It's heat that's doing all this. And, you know, mostly what's happening with the factory ones is the foam, the open cell foam on the back side is just failing from that heat. And as it fails, it, you know, obviously the fabric comes off. So this is why I don't recommend putting another foam backed fabric in. It's because you can just glue hard to that fiberglass. So the only other thing I would add to that is if you're doing this and you completely screwed it up, there's no coming back from it. It just doesn't look good. You don't like it. You know, dude, just go to the junkyard and get another one. People never buy these. I think the only one I've ever had to buy was like $18. So you don't need one. It doesn't matter if it has stains in it or any of that. If you're going to refabric again and you know what you did that messed it up and you can fix it, just go to the junkyard and get another one. It's not a big deal. But this guy turned out gorgeous. This is going in my 01 Cummins club cab. I'm super stoked on it. Okay, here she is, installed. I'm digging it. I love the fabric. I'm sure most won't like it, but it definitely something I'm into. Came out really good. I thought that the light gray would be kind of weird, but it actually, I think, came out pretty good. It accents it pretty good. So anyway, that's finished product installed. Hope you guys liked the film. Thanks for watching.